an evolutionist finishes his debate discussion with a young Earth creationist online in one of those live discussions. The video later receives many comments, Christians defending their faith from what they deem to be the evil atheists. Evolutionists poke fun at the science illiteracy. The debater I mentioned earlier participates in the flaming comment war of the cyber warriors. One young Earth creationist supporter calls himself a liar, and calls that dude a liar, and accuses him of leading God's sheep away from their good shepherd, Jesus Christ. The debater tries to explain how he just wants to promote good science, but the young Earth creationist on fire for God will not have any of it. In fact, this debate has just confirmed in his mind that all atheists really just want to lead people away from the Lord and are just as bad as his peers said that they are. Even though the debate may have presented logic, all of the people that were basically swayed by the non-logical person didn't really care. It wasn't about the logic to them. It was about what they believed. And if they believed it strong enough, they would always believe it, no matter what type of logic was shown to them. For if somebody doesn't want to be convinced of anything, they will not be convinced. For somebody to learn, they have to be willing to learn. And the discussion I wanted to have here today is, it probably is, in my opinion, a waste of time if no one really wants to learn. And some people on here would rather just spout things without actually listening to what the other side wants to say. And therefore, debates and discussions like this, to those particular people, are useless. And there's much more of them than we think. And there is much more of these kind of people than I think even we would like to admit. Not just in this community, but people outside in general. You talk about debating and discussing from the outside, trying to convince somebody from the outside that you're right. But how much of that actually happens?
That is so sad.
Right. So today, our discussion is going to be how effective really are these debates and discussions. So again, like last time, not like last time, because I actually haven't used this channel in a while, but basically it's your boy Trill The Cyberspace Fay, and this is going to be a short hangout since there's 3 already planned in like a row. So me, then there's another hangout happening. There's like another one happening, I think on another day. But anyways, does anybody have any thoughts or opinions on this?
I have a theory.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, not really a theory. It's just more like a thought and a feeling. Like, people always want to be right, right? We don't like being wrong about something. And we'll always say it to ourselves, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. And it's rare that we'll consider, hey, maybe I am wrong. But there's another thing behind that. It's power. People want power. We don't want to feel weak. And when we feel like we are wrong about something, we feel like we are weak. Everyone wants to be strong. Everyone wants to be right. It's just not how things work. And with my personal opinion, it's fine to be wrong. It's fine to be weak, but just not all the time.
I'm of the mind that if you're one of those people that don't want to learn or uninterested in learning, or if you're one of those people who don't like the idea of being wrong, then you really are a waste of time. Most of the opinions I hold today are because of I considered what if I'm wrong.
Right, that's a pretty powerful thing.
It seems like to me we're a bunch of kindergartners wanting to play and live, and nobody wants any more truth than they've already got. They don't want to have to keep tying off the loose ends on whatever is functional in what one believes, and you know, we'll take a little more deep understanding if we absolutely have to, if it's necessary at the time. But most all peeps seem like they're interested in living and doing good and playing and living a life of wonder and fulfillment with not much time to sit around contemplating deep truths of God or one's navel, or, you know, those folks want to live. They're not guilty if they don't want to, like, study deep Zen Buddhist principles or read the Torah. They're just young a little bit.
You know what? I actually think that's a good point, because even though some people, you know, they kind of say St. Tommy's out there, whatnot, that's actually a really good point you brought up, because some people just don't want, like you said, any more truth than what they already have. There's a lot of people that just kind of go through their life and they might not necessarily be looking for the answers for certain things. And in some ways, I do think that's all right. Again, the discussion, at least in my opinion, I mean, we can take it there, obviously, but it's not all about how effective are these debates and discussions. The question is not about should people be more open or not. I mean, that's up for everybody to decide for themselves whether everybody can be open to everything. It's more about, are these discussions actually reaching people? Is there a way to make them reach people? Is it really all up to others?
Yes. I'd like to propose that there is, and that the things that we say, each of us, do have an effect on each other, and that we're learning from each other, learning each other's perspectives. We're learning what is dysfunctional by observing each other and hearing each other, and we're mimicking each other in good ways. We're learning and growing from each other, and this is a very effective and powerful platform, G+.
Right.
Of course, you can make of it what you want. Have an art show or contemplate the deep truths of reality.
Right.
But we are learning, and it's good.
Correct.
I would say that these conversations that people have are a good thing. Not necessarily just about religion, but in politics and equality, war, etc., etc., etc. These conversations are good conversations to have. I mean, the conversation is the main reason why the Americans don't segregate black and white people anymore. It's the reason why gay people in America are, in majority, able to get married. Now, these conversations do help. They do reach people, and they are effective. I would say that on Google Plus, maybe not so much, because the people who are mostly watching these videos and actually engaging in these videos are the people who are involved in the community anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
And I've always said that when I argue with somebody, I don't argue to change their mind, because I realize with most people, atheist or Christian, their mind isn't going to change from that one single conversation, but the people in the audience can.
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
The problem is, like I said, the people who are watching these Google Plus Great Debate community videos and who actually actively engage in the conversations are already part of the community. So it almost feels like, for me, that the conversations here aren't doing a whole lot.
Yeah, I don't know, but for me, these conversations, I use them like I never try to come change anybody's mind per se. The conversations for me are more of a way to sort of challenge my own views. Because like if it's really hard to question your own positions, but it's really easy to find somebody on here who disagrees with you and who's all too willing to challenge your own positions. So that's more how I see it.
I agree with that. That's why, and I like to challenge my own positions. Like I said, most of the opinions that I have is because of myself thinking, what if I'm wrong? And then exploring that. And I have had my mind changed. And well, obviously I go through conversations and research and stuff like that, and I've had my mind changed as a result. In some cases, not every case. But that's why when I enter into a conversation with somebody with whom I disagree, I ask them for their information. I ask them for what information they have to make them think a certain way. And that's why it pisses me off when people say stupid shit like, oh, go do your research. It's like, no, your information that you have convinced you. I want to see whether it convinced you.
Yeah.
And challenging your own
We're
beliefs.
getting
in
some
that
background
way
noise from you.
is super important.
Saint Tommy just flushed the toilet or something.
Wow, yeah, we were getting. St. Tom, do you mind, like, if you're not talking to mute because we are getting some background noise from you?
A lot of it.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me?
We can hear you,
Yeah,
just
we can hear
background.
you.
Okay, I'm gonna mute. I would like to interject this though, that I think that we're falling in like with each other. Face it, you visionaries, you're seeing each other deeply, and you're kind of liking what you're seeing. And people of various perspectives are really getting to see each other and really liking what they're seeing. And I see that a lot of that happening, a lot of like happening, and maybe even a little bit of kindness and love going on. Friendship is magic. Thanks, Thaddeus.
I see that there's something else, though. There's also a lot of division happening as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of
More
liking.
division than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, theosodomization and subjugation and name calling, world-class name calling. Oh my, yes.
I thought something AJ brought up was interesting. It's like, you know, how people get so offended about, you know, if somebody says that they're not right on something because it seems to like denigrate their own intellectual ability. You know, I always thought it was interesting that, you know, a lot of people will admit, well, I'm not very good at art, or I'm not very good at playing guitar or something like that, but they're never. Everybody's always going to be offended if you say you're just not very smart or something like that.
Yeah, I think it stems from two things. I think it stems from the fact that they don't want to be wrong. You know, having their
Who does, man?
in that way. Well, I love being wrong though. That's why.
Okay.
That's how I learn things. I love learning things, but part of that is because people don't want to be wrong. They don't like the idea of their intellect being challenged. You know, that it's like a manhood type thing. You know, it's.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
feel like they're better people as a result.
If I were to wrestle some professional champion of wrestling or something, I would lose. I'm not at all offended by somebody telling me that, right? But if a normal person were to debate like an expert in philosophy and they would lose, they would feel really bad about that.
Well, yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
It's because, you know, most people are able to recognize what they're good and not good at in terms of, you know, skill and stuff like that. Like, I know I can't sing, but I can play guitar well, or stuff like that, right? But intelligence is probably one of the very few things that almost everybody is like, this is something that I'm good at. I know I'm smart. But what they don't understand is that just because you're wrong on something doesn't mean you're not smart.
Yeah, just because you're stupid in one area doesn't mean you're stupid in all areas.
Yeah.
There's some places that, you know, you just have to be able to admit to yourself. Well, you don't have to, but it'd be nice to be able to admit to yourself, you know what? I'm kind of stupid on that area right there. You know, doesn't mean I'm stupid in all areas. That kind of area, sure. Like, you know what, philosophy, I don't try to argue deep philosophy because I'm kind of stupid when it comes to deep philosophy. But you know what? There's other areas that I do kind of succeed at. So
I think the other place that it comes from is the idea that it is comfort. People are comforted by their ideas, their opinions, and their beliefs. And that goes from Christians to atheists to everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it doesn't matter what.
So we crystallize more clearly what we already see or understand. We seek to crystallize our current understanding. It sounds like.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sounds good. I've thought about, why do we get upset? You know, we're so passionate, and I think part of it has to do with self-conceptualization. If we get insulted, you know, it feels really bad, and then it affects how we see ourselves. And we are kind of parading. It's kind of like junior high. You know, we're parading and becoming bigger than we were formerly. We're displaying ourselves and discovering who we are. And it's a very passionate process. You know, it's heart-wrenching. teaching sometimes.
Right, and I think the thing is that these ideas or whatnot, I think this is why people get so passionate about these ideas, is because when it comes to especially things like religion and politics and all that, they're different. These type of subjects are a lot different than debating, you know, oh, which movie character is better or whatnot, you know? Like a lot of that stuff is pretty much child's play in a way compared to the deep sort of philosophical and even how should we apply this to everyday life implications that discussing things like politics and religion has on people. That's more of because you know, if you're wrong about something on that kind of level, because this is all has to do with philosophy, if you're wrong about something on that kind of level, that might have to make you rethink how you even approach your life, how you approach your relationships, how you approach your interests, what you're even allowed to be interested in, what you're not supposed to like, what you are supposed to like. And I think that for a lot of people is a scary thing. Because let me tell you something. I know it was for me back when I called myself a moderate Christian on here. A lot of the more fundamentalist type like to say, oh, here's these things you're not supposed to do or whatnot. And when I couldn't defend it, it was really easy for me to say, oh, you're just a fundy or whatever, you know. You're not one of the, I guess, real Christians. Or I didn't even go that far. I said, you're not one of the more Christ-like Christians, you know, whatever that's supposed to mean. But the thing is, the more you look into different things, the more you look into, you know, their line of reasoning, if there's something right there and it goes against your values, I think that bugs a lot of people. And I think that can drive some people to be kind of dishonest themselves just so they don't have to deal with those kind of uncomfortable truths. I think that's the reason why people get so uptight about the subject of religion in particular. Because
Right. No,
if it goes
I
against
think you're
their
right.
values, then yeah.
Because it has to do with like morality. And I don't know if this has always been this way, but people get really emotional about things, about right and wrong, right? And that's kind of like what we noticed recently inside of politics, especially, is that a lot of hyper-moralization of certain things to the point to where, say, certain groups will call you racist or sexist. And yeah, it's like a whole another level of emotions.
Right.
Yeah, and they have a difficult time imagining the other side of things too, even if they're explained it to them in detail.
Right. Sometimes it's that lack of empathy, being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes as well. Because we have a very a lot of humans tend to have, even if they like to deny it, they like to have a very egocentric view of the world, where a lot of the times it does depend on how they themselves would react or see that particular situation. And that doesn't really define, like, if there even is such a thing. I mean, I'm not going to go there and say there is for this particular discussion, but if there is such a thing as objective morality. Because here's the thing, it's like what you like personally doesn't really have too much to do with morality. That's just like your own independent values. That's personally why I don't even like to discuss the whole morality thing anymore. Because I realized this a while ago, it's like all this really is, you know, people's opinions really half the time versus another person's opinions. It's like, that's not morality. Like, morality should be an intrinsic thing. If it's not, these are just people's individual values. It's like, I like these things over here, but I don't like these things over here. And meanwhile, you're debating somebody else that's basically the opposite of that. And it's like, well, where does that get us? We just all have individual values. I have things that you probably won't like, and vice versa. So,
yeah, I've never understood the idea of things being intrinsic. You know, ultimate basis for things. I mean, we've all been told all throughout, probably elementary school, middle school, maybe not so much high school, that, you know, we're all individuals, we all like different things, have respect for each other's differences. But, you know, once we get out into the real world and we start having these conversations, we're all told, no, there's an ultimate basis for these things. And here's what you should like and why. And then when I say we get told by our peers, other people who are on the same level as us.
Well, I would never tell anybody, and I don't think any of us would tell anybody, well, here's what you should like, and here's why. I think somebody might say to them, here's what is right, and this is why, as opposed to like distinguishing between, what is objectively right and wrong. I mean, it's not just taste. I mean, everybody understands that people have different tastes, and that's fine. But different standards of right and wrong, that's a problem.
It is if you're talking about a subjective thing, because in a way, that is kind of still taste. It's just taste about larger issues at hand.
Yes and no. I mean, it's all
Not everybody
about,
views the same way. Otherwise, that's why we have messed up cultures today. I don't think they view what we consider wrong as wrong as well, but they're still doing it anyways.
Yes, but I disagree only slightly with the idea of it being a personal taste, because there is much more that goes into it, obviously, than just a person's ideas. It's like I've always liked the idea of, I think this particular action is wrong, and here's why, and it depends on the why, right? And if you say, I think this particular action is wrong because I wouldn't like it to happen to me, well, that's selfish and doesn't get us anywhere.
Okay, so you base it more on what, other people?
Well, like, there's a lot that goes into it. Obviously, there's empathy, and personal feeling and opinion does have a little bit to play in it. Societal laws, religious background, upbringing, etc., etc., etc. There's a lot that goes into it and a lot to consider, which is why conversations about these things are important.
Right, exactly. But going back to the topic at hand, it's like, so how effective do you really think you'd be able to communicate these ideas to somebody to the point where they can really see what you're thinking about? Because that's one reason I don't like the whole discussion between objective and subjective moralities. It's the issue that never really gets solved because both sides honestly do have good opinions to support what they're saying, but no one seems to be really
got that right.
Right. So
I've been finding out more and more that Google Plus is probably not the best place for me to convey these ideas.
I feel the same.
I seem to do a fairly decent job on Facebook. I seem to do a fairly decent job on debate.org when I used to be on there. I did a decent job on the couple of YouTube videos I've done. But these conversations on Google Plus seem to go nowhere all the time. And
I think
why is that?
The time. Well, like I said,
why is that though?
Well, like I said earlier, is that these Google Plus Hangout videos, the live Hangouts and the videos, the people who are, it seems more and more likely that the people who are watching them and actively engaging in the conversation, whether in the Hangout or in the chat or in the comments afterwards, are the people who are already involved in the Google Plus community. And that doesn't really do anything, because in the Google Plus community, everybody has this ego about them. They have this reputation thing. And if they change their mind on anything, their reputation gets ruined, they think,
Does it though?
And so having these conversations on Google Plus to me is wasting time.
Does it though?
Because
I mean, you say people's opinions and that get, like their opinions, like their reputation gets ruined, but I've seen people actually rebrand themselves just fine. Like, for instance, what's her face? Eve Real. She gave up on Christianity. She was a pretty prominent atheist around here. And then recently, she kind of rebranded herself to Teal Summers, and she became like all Christian again and became a flat earther. And sure, she's lost some of the people that used to look up to her and everything, and lost some of those circles. But you know what? She's able to rebrand pretty much no problem. And now she has like other people that she has friends with now and fellowship with.
I mean, certainly I wouldn't disagree, Mr. Fix, or Mixpan, that when you say that there is not a lot accomplished in the goddamn Google Hangouts. That is certainly true. But
especially since the people who actively engage already have their ideas about things, and most of them aren't open-minded. Some of the atheists, I would say, are more open-minded than most Christians. But in general, most people have this idea, and they're going to argue that idea to death, even if the evidence points the opposite way.
Right.
I would just, but I mean, it seems to me that there is slightly more opportunity, at least from my perspective, for rigorous intellectual criticism and debate here than on Facebook.
Well, it depends on where you are. I belong to.
You are. I mean, you have different friends, I'm sure.
Well, I belong to 2 religion debate pages where there's a lot of intellectual conversation going on. Most of the posts by the Christians are just kind of like Jesus is Lord, accept it, with no evidence kind of thing. But you know, people do post seemingly regularly things like where they actually open up a conversation. Here's the evidence I got. What do you have? Let's converse. And it seems to be working well. And I belong to a couple of political pages. Same thing is going on. Here's what's going on. Let's discuss it. Here's what I think. What do you think? Let's converse. Where's the middle ground type stuff?
Right.
So Facebook seems to be working out pretty well.
Well, you are.
Can I share my experience?
Sure.
Please do.
What's that?
Yeah,
Sure.
I think. Can I share my experience?
Yeah,
about
it's
this
fine.
topic?
Sure.
Are just debate and discussion. You know, I think the big difference between you and me, because some of you maybe are living in America or in England or in the
Canada.
western part of or Canada. Yeah, I live in Japan. Okay.
Okay.
Lucky.
So, in other words, I live in the place where there is no English. There's no English. Google. I mean, there's no YouTube. Only Japan. But I can watch English. So, in other words, I am living in an island, and where I don't have any. There's no surrounding. There's no friend here who can speak English about science and philosophy. Who could never talk about that. So for me, this topic of the title is how effective really are this debate and discussion. I think for me, okay, my experience, I will say this is very effective for me, because I can talk to you where I can talk to many people around the world by just using the internet and the online. And actually, I've been doing that. I've been doing the debate for almost 20 years in the online forum. And I think that's why my answer to this topic is good for me. My comment is that it is very effective for me. That there must have a discussion, whether the discussion is in the internet and a website, or it's like I normally give my comments to many non-atheist discussion forum, and it's very effective for me, because even though I'm alone here in Japan, I can talk to some people like you who are intelligent, who are intellectual, who are academically inclined people, who are nice and good debaters. That's why for me, I think this kind of a great debate community, something like that, for me, it's very effective for me. I don't know about you.
That's really cool.
That's my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
So I guess that's one form of.
And one more.
Okay, go ahead.
One more, please. Okay. And the second the reason why, so, because I am a serious guy. I mean, I'm a very serious person. It's when we are going to talk about science, life, philosophy, and religion and destiny. So because of the debate community, I was challenged to research the topic of intelligence. Because for my past 20 years of my online debate with many people who believe in evolution, who believe in anti, something like that, there will always, the question are always like this. The question are always like this. If you believe that there is an intelligent agent, how can you know that this agent makes X and this agent did not make X? So they're asking me how to categorize X. So that is my, whenever I join in many discussion forums, especially 1997, from 1997 until now. So that's the reason why I researched myself. I did myself. I'm very serious about it because if I cannot answer that, I'll have no any other topic to be discussed in the internet, in the online debate forum. That is why I reiterate again that it's, for me, this kind of a discussion is very effective. The debate and discussion are very effective for me.
Okay.
And especially when you are serious about science, you are going to go, you are really going to research so that you will not going to be defeated. Sorry to that. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And I guess maybe I should clarify a little bit. When I say how effective are these debates, I'm not necessarily talking about like how, like when you effective are they necessarily for you, but I'm mostly talking about, I guess, people like in general, like the world, like not just the person who's participating in, but also who's listening to it, you know, because I think every now and then some of these YouTube channels that are part of this little community, or even like are an out, or like a, what do you call it, like an outlier, or somebody who's kind of part of the community but not really, like they're just kind of like, I don't think G-Man considers himself part of this community, but he still is kind of part of the community in a way that he interacts with. He's an offshoot. So even for the offshoot channels that still know these kind of people but don't consider themselves part of this community, for them, every now and then they'll pick up some stragglers, some people that don't know too much about someone like Steve McRae or whatever, but they heard about him, but they're more loyal to the person that they've subscribed to rather than the other person. And for these kind of debates, wonder how effective they'll actually be. I feel like some people will just be like, you know, fanboying or whatever over their favorite YouTuber, and no matter what he says, they're always going to be on their side or whatnot. It happens every now and then. I think it's the same thing for the Young Earth creationists. Like, for instance, the whole Kent Hovind thing. Yes, he is losing support. I understand that. And yes, his ideas are out there. I'm not going to deny that. But he does have some people that are part of his quote-unquote fan base, if you want to call it that, that no matter what he says, are always going to defend him. And they say, oh, you did a good job facing King Crocoduck or whatever there. Even if he didn't. So, I mean, a lot of times I feel like, you know, there's a lot of this mentality that comes out of these debates and discussions. And it's like, really say anything that's going to break through that cult mentality? Because a lot of me thinks not always. I don't know. If anyone
I
has anything
have
to add to that.
another phrase for mob mentality. I call it mobster mentality, because mob mentality is a monster. It turns us into monsters. So I call it mobster mentality. I have been a mobster before, and every time I think about it, it gives me this disgusting feeling like I was brainwashed or something. So I can relate to how people get into them in this mentality. I know what it's like to want to defend something to the death. I know what it's like to refuse something so much that you don't want it to exist. I know what it's all like. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that too.
Right. And yeah, I think a lot of us have been kind of guilty of that in the past, where you just want to kind of argue for something without really, like, you're out of steam. The person's clearly made a bunch of good points that are way better than yours, but the other person just doesn't want to give it up. And I think a lot of that does have to do with the fact, like as I said we said in the beginning, these conversations are very emotionally driven. It's like we want our side to be right, because if our side is wrong, depending on where we stand, that means so many implications for us, like in the real world and all that. Because religion's not just something you just kind of talk about willy-nilly. This is something that, you know, you better hope that your position is the right one, kind of thing, in a lot of respects. Because if it's not, you know, there could be serious implications, you know, depending on which religion we're talking about, depending on which issues we're discussing. So I think a lot of people, like, I don't want to turn it into this, but I'm just going to go there because I think it's important. It scares them to know that, you know, there might be, for instance, I'm just going to use this as an example, like atheists. I think it scares them to know that there could be, like, good evidence out there that Jesus actually existed and the whole God thing or whatnot. because, you know, if they're wrong about that, there's a lot of things they might have to change in their life because morality is attached to that. I mean, you could go down the misotheist route like me, because I'm not gonna subscribe to morality that I don't agree with personally as far as my viewpoint goes. But I'm not gonna just deny all the evidence of the supernatural stuff out there just because I dislike it. I think that's a really bad thing to do. So I'm a misotheist for that reason. You can still disagree with the morality, but just talking about like the facts themselves, I think this is why a lot of people get so heated in these conversations, because it is a very personal thing. But people I don't know if they understand that. They don't know what's going on deep within their psyche. But yeah, again, when you're talking about religion or whatnot, you're not just talking about the subject at hand. You're also talking about a piece of your humanity. And when somebody challenges your own humanity, that can be a pretty scary thing.
I agree with that, especially with the humanity thing. I entirely agree.
Yeah, somebody in the live chat actually said that Mike J it was, even though I told him he could join himself if he wanted to join, but he said that he's a former young Earth creationist. Yes, these hangs are effective. So again, there are some people out there that might be able to be persuaded by some of these arguments and all that. Honestly, myself, I just don't see that happening a whole lot.
Well, I've been changed my position several times. I used to be a young Earth creationist, and then I was a sort of Cartesian, then I was a sort of Kantian, and now I'm a Thomist and an evolutionary biologist. So I don't know. If you talk to more people, maybe, I don't know, I haven't talked to all these people here, obviously, but you might find that quite a few of them have changed their positions.
Yeah, I know I have on certain things. I don't know if all of it's due to this community, though. Maybe some of the people might say, here, look this up or whatnot, but I think I've done a lot more personal life and personal research thing. That's what's led to a lot of my changing of my positions and all that.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I just recently joined this group, so none of that happened in this group. But I mean, it's been other forums and talking to other people. So it's just conversation in general.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, you're more decided.
Thaddeus, Trill. Sorry.
Just call me Trill.
Trill. Okay. Trill. I think last 3 days ago, you made another hangout about. Sorry, maybe it is another topic. Because I was not there. So your topic is does evolution or does intelligent design? What to say? The title is, does intelligent design is compatible,
right,
with evolution? Okay. So because I was not there, so I really would like to make a hangout for that. Since you are already here, maybe I would like to give to you my comments also there, because sorry, whenever you talk about intelligent design, I am the authority. I mean, because I discovered the real intelligence. So to answer the topic again,
can I hang on? Can I just say this, because this is something I probably should have gotten out of the way before.
Okay.
I went down this path about the whole intelligent design and evolution being compatible. But many people are telling me that intelligent design itself is a philosophy that's already kind of established. And the way they say, it's like, yeah, you know what? If we're taking that particular philosophy, it's probably not compatible with evolution. But the way I was using the term intelligent design, I wasn't using it the same way that someone like True Empiricism or G-Man would use the term intelligent design. I was using it in the sense that could creatures like biology or this world could have been, made like intelligently, as in like could some sort of creative force or God have created everything, but evolution still happened, right? Like the natural processes still created the world. Like you still have that who knows how many periods where the earth was just lava or whatnot, and then later on life and that evolved to the state where it's at now. Like, I can accept that, but it's like I don't see that defeating the whole fact that, you know, there still could be a supernatural force behind it. Like, what if some sort of supernatural force or God set those processes in motion, and maybe he, you know, was kind of pulling the strings in a lot of different things invisibly to have it so we have this particular setup that we have now. So when I made that hangout originally, I did not mean intelligent design quite the same way that other people do, because apparently it's this whole theory, and according to that theory, I don't think that particular theory is compatible with evolution the way people are using that term. But I was kind of using the term in a different way. So really, I was more arguing for theistic evolution, maybe, because even I don't think I buy the official intelligent design like argument type thing. It's just more along the lines that, yeah, evolution could have happened if things could have been intelligently designed, but I'm not using intelligent design like, you know, in capital letters the same way that people are using it to describe an official theory that has these sets of core beliefs and all that. But yes, I don't know, I was using the term wrong.
Okay, yeah, because the top, you know, you have a very good topic for me, okay, for me, because, you know, the way you make a topic and a title is for me, I don't know about other people, it's very interesting, because based on my study and my research, the old intelligent design that is being supported by the Discovery Institute, like Michael Behe or William Dembski or Stephen Meyer, they probably, if they are going to use the old intelligent design argument, they will probably endorse about evolution, because according to Michael B, he believed that evolution was right, because actually he believed that Darwin was right when Behe had used Darwin's idea of complex eyes. Therefore, according to Behe, the natural process is simple, and intelligent process is irreducible complexity. So I think the old intelligent design is confirming, or is conformable to, is in line with the evolution, the theory of evolution. But the new one, I have told you that the new one that I have discovered, the real intelligence, it is not. It is like a north and south, or east and west, that it will never meet. So that's the reason why. Sorry, maybe it will derail your topic here, but I really would like to ask you about, get a comment for that, because, you know, we have as I've been saying many times in a hangout, that whenever you talk about intelligence or intelligent design, I am the authority. Maybe it's boasting, but I don't know, but I don't know about that. But that is reality for me. Okay, sorry.
But
Okay,
yeah, I know. Yeah, some people in the live chat were complaining about how this is kind of derailing the conversation. Yeah, I understand. But yeah, just to close that in the bud, because no offense, Mr. Intelligent Design, but if you want to talk to me about that, maybe there could be a hangout specifically set up for that, because that's not the particular subject of the hangout at hand, is talking about the whole intelligent design thing. But just to answer your question as quickly as I can, you know, you have an idea. From what I've heard from other people, no offense, but I've heard that your ideas are basically a bunch of crap. So maybe we can have a hangout specifically where you could actually tell me in specifics what exactly your idea is, and maybe I could have more of an understanding. But from where I stand right now, from what I understand from other people, it's a bunch of word that doesn't really make too much sense. So, yeah. But anyways, back onto the topic at hand.
Yeah, yeah. Please, give me a time to explain again to you, so that whenever you use the word intelligent design, you are aware that you are talking about new and old intelligent design. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Continue, please. Sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Right. So, like, back to how effective really are these debates and discussions. A minute to talk about the effects that, you know, discussions like the whole younger creation versus evolution, because a lot of I know people separate the science from theology too well when it comes to discussing young Earth creationism versus evolution, because they do kind of have their theological ties. I don't think young Earth creation would even be a thing if it wasn't for the fact, the Bible exists and God did his thing or whatnot, and we don't quite know how to interpret that one part of the Genesis account. If that wasn't a thing, the whole young Earth creationism thing wouldn't even be a thing. So it does become a theological discussion in a way, whether people like it or not. And I know people try to separate it from that, but I think it would be a mistake to basically say, oh, this has nothing to do with religion, because it does. That's why people feel so strongly about it as they do, because it does feel like their religion is under attack when you start talking about why young Earth creationism is wrong.
Yeah, that's why I always approach it from a biblical perspective and always talk about how, say, you don't have to deny the Bible in order to accept evolution. And I think that's an important way to start when you're having discussions with creationists and trying to change their minds.
If you are having a conversation with anybody about whatever it is, and if at any point during that conversation you feel like your opinions or beliefs are under an attack, then you might as well just leave the fucking conversation, because you're a waste of time and you're pathetic.
I like that one. That's pretty cool. No, and I hear you. Some people, I know not everybody's able to differentiate between, trying to debate something civilly and then their beliefs being under attack. But yeah, some people are like that. Yeah, that's actually some good advice in a way. Although I do kind of like to see the chaos a little bit, because to be fair, I do come to this community for entertainment. So if there wasn't the crazy people that take it to the extreme ends when it comes to half these conversations, I probably wouldn't be here. I'm not here for the intellectual echo chambers that happened when you're discussing, among skeptic-minded individuals. They're all on the same page. Like, oh, you see how much of an idiot that guy is? Yeah, I saw how much of an idiot that guy is. He's pretty much an idiot, isn't he? Yeah, he is. It's like, I don't want to do that all the time. I like actually engaging with the idiots themselves. Like that's one of the. That's one of
the reasons why I left Steve's hangout that one day. What was it, last Sunday? Whenever it was, I don't care. Is because it was nothing but an echo chamber, and I'm not interested in just simply trolling a room. I mean, yeah, they are the most trollable people on the planet, flat earthers, but I'm not interested in an echo chamber.
So you want to
troll the flat earthers? I'll do it myself.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand all the cliques here in this community are important. You should have like the skeptic crowd, then you have the Christian crowd, and the different types of Christian crowd too, because you got like the Calvinist group, and then you got the moderate group, and then you got the fundamentalist group, the clown car posse, whatever you want to call them. I think all these different sections, they're important. They all make up the community in that. But, again, as you said with the echo chambers, both sides are guilty of having them. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, they do have their place. Like, Steve wants to run his show that way. That's fine. I'm not dissing him for that. But, just for me personally, it'd be nice to see more of a mixed mash of types of people every now and then, so we can have more of equal representation of different sides, to the best of our ability.
To have it be an actual debate.
Right. Exactly. Because now I feel like both sides are kind of either afraid or unwilling to talk to each other as much. Because back in the day, it seems like people would really, make an effort to cross over into the enemy lines, so to speak. And they'd go over to other people's channels and all that disagree vehemently with them. And they would that would kind of just be a thing for them. And now it seems like people kind of have slowly developed their own little echo chamber boxes, and so the skeptics only really want to hang out over here, and they're done talking too much to the younger creationists because they're too stupid to deal with or whatnot. Not saying that applies for everybody, but I think there's select few that just don't want to go over to enemy lines. And meanwhile, on the other side, you have all the irrational people and all their little boxes and groups and that, and they don't want to just cross past the skeptics because they're either too afraid, or they say, oh, the skeptics, in their opinion, are so stupid, they're not even worth my time. And it's like, well, that kills the debate right there. That kills the discussion. Now everybody's just in their own little boxes doing their own little thing. Steve McRae's got his own little thing going on here and their little thing. It's like, that's not interesting, in my opinion. So, you know, I myself have actually gone sometimes out of my way, you know, when I feel like it, obviously, because there's other interests I have, when I'm on here, to go to people that I do vehemently disagree with. I've gone to the Bible-thumping wingnut people and all that, you know, and I disagree with them on many different things. But, you know, I've still, you know, argued. I've played devil's advocate for things because, you know, that's how you really generate discussion, you know, challenging your own ideas, arguing for certain viewpoints or not. That's, you know, how you create it in a challenging, great debate community. It's not by sitting in your own echo chambers every single week, doing the same thing over and over again, and then say I'm learning, because learning, a lot of the stuff, points I hear in the echo chambers are regurgitated like constantly.
Yeah, that's why every time you send me a link to a hangout that's going on, I ask if you're going in, because A, I want to avoid an echo chamber, and B, because I know you disagree with some of my shit, so there's no chance of you being an echo chamber for me. I'm not interested in echo chambers. I don't want to be involved in echo chambers, and more than often I end up in one anyway. But I'll deal with that when that comes around.
No, yeah, and I understand. Yeah, and again, just to be clear, this isn't me dissing people for their shows, because personally I understand, you know, Pin Valentine and I had our own show where it was basically just a set panel, and some people want to run their hangouts that way. That's understandable. Not everybody needs to be an open room. That's stupid. Obviously YouTube channels can do what they want. There's all different types of content here, and the same applies for Google Hangouts. There's all different types of Google Hangout content. But the thing is, I feel like, you know, if you're going to present this as a community of like challenging ideas and all that, I don't see that happening directly. I see a lot of that happening kind of secondhand, where they'll listen to somebody make a stupid point, and instead of really directly confronting that person about it all the time, they will kind of talk behind their back or whatnot, or, you know, make a video about it. And then the person down the road won't find out till later that they said something, and then they make a response and all that. It just feels very isolating. I don't know.
But what can I share my comment about that, about the debate?
Sure, if it's on topic, no offense.
In the debate, yeah, because a while ago the topic is the debate. Okay, so I think the reason why many people are not debating right now, especially the evolutionist side, because they are saying that hey, don't give the creationist supporters a chance or a time to share their ideas, and don't give them platform, because according to them they are going to evangelize, maybe something like that. So, and probably I think one of the reason why many evolution supporters doesn't want to debate with many creationist people, because they don't have any model, model, to fight, especially when, for example, when Steve had debated with the true empirism. Steve was using the model for evolution, but true empirism, he has no clue. Is he talking about creation? Was he talking about intelligent design, or was he talking about what? So, meaning there is no model that for the scientific model for the creation side. That's the reason why they don't want to talk. But in my experience, whenever I use my model, people don't want to talk to me. They're afraid to fight me. I don't know why.
I don't know so much the fear. No, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's so much the fear. I think it's the fact that just because you have a model doesn't mean that your model is either A, good. I'm not going to say it's not good because I haven't seen it. But just as an example, either it's not good, or maybe the model itself doesn't actually prove like a point. Well, like, here's the thing: I can make a model of almost any sort of, you know, belief I have or whatnot, right? And I can say, here's a model, here's how this works or whatnot. You know, this is my theory, and then you can look at it and go, okay, that's an interesting model. All your logic's consistent within your own worldview, but you haven't proven that what you just said is the case. Just shown that if that is the case, that all your logic's consistent within itself.
Well, to be honest, Mr. ID, I don't mean this in an offensive way. The reason why they stop talking to you is because you keep repeating the same thing over and over again, and they're just kind of getting tired of it.
No, the reason why I repeat, because I've been in the online debate for 20 years, and many people who are supporting evolutions always said that if you're against evolution, then show what is the explanation of the change of the change in the origin of the species. So in other words, I've been hearing that many times. They're repeated for almost many years. So when I gave to them this model, they didn't want to accept. So in other words, the reason why I repeat that, because I am challenging you academically, intellectually. I've been saying, like, I discovered the real intelligence. Maybe in your mind you don't understand what is intelligent. Maybe you are not serious. Hey, what is intelligence actually? So maybe you don't think that the topic of intelligence is part of nature or science. Maybe you just don't care.
Well,
So that's the reason why for some of you, for many of you said it is a repetitious, but for me it's academic challenge.
right.
Because if you are a ruling, like the evolution, if you are a ruling theory in science, you are not afraid to smash any new discovery in new models.
Right. Can I just
Okay,
say that again? I know we keep getting off topic, but can I just say to reply to that that it's not so much the fact that evolution, in my opinion, intelligent design. When I made that hangout originally, way I use intelligent design, which I know is not the same way that you use it, Edgar, and it's not even the same way that True and Pearson that use it. But the thing is, that's an interesting hypothesis or philosophy, if you will, of how things could have been created by an intelligent person. Yeah, sure, that could have happened, but that kind of falls outside the realm of science because you can't really prove scientifically that something, made all of this organic life and the universe and all that. Like, you can argue that philosophically, you can have different positions as far as like, oh yes, this happened. It's like, it makes sense, right? Like how can something that's not, how can something design itself? The universe can't come from nothing. Yeah, sure, that's philosophically or common sensely sound, but that's not really a scientific position. I'll never argue that even my version of intelligent design, if you can call it that, is scientific. It's more of a tacked on kind of theory because of where I stand theologically, kind of thing. But, to be fair, a lot of people feel like you're kind of going off topic, so I'm going to ask that you either really try to keep it on topic, otherwise we're going to have to ask that maybe you don't participate, because there's a lot of people on the outside that are getting a little bit upset. And the last thing I want to do is basically alienate all of them, especially since it's not even my channel. So. I don't know. AJ, do you have any thoughts?
Well, mostly you, Penn, you and Penn have said most of what I've thought, so I'm not sure if I can add anything.
No, that's okay. El Chihuahua? Did you have anything?
Well, I thought there's something interesting. I mean, I know that Steve goes over this a lot, but there is this, the other side does kind of, like, even I was blocked from certain channels, and I agree with them. I'm a Christian, from certain sides on the kind of young earth creationist side. So I think that is another aspect of the problems as far as debate not happening, is that people kind of get tired of getting kicked out of the hangouts and getting yelled at and all that. So especially when it comes to Darwin's deity.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a big one right there. People do get tired of the stuff. Yeah. And I think that might be a reason why some people quit going over to some of the Christian rooms, because they're so easy on that eject trigger finger. So, yeah, if they were a little bit more accepting, then maybe more people would go over there. But then you got someone like me who's permabanned from G-Man's channel, and now that's like one place that until he lets go of that grudge, I can't go to. So he shut himself off from pretty much all opinions me. So.
But I think in every debate, it must be scientific. Because this topic said, the title is how effective really are these debates and discussion. The discussion will become effective if we are going to use science, natural science, because for example, there are two parties are debating or discussing one topic of science. They will surely research the topic and they are going to make experiment for science. I think that become effective and not boring. But if there are no research, there are no experiment done, then the discussion are just like it's like a nonsense, because
Right.
you will never learn anything.
Right.
That's the reason you never learn any. Okay.
Hey, multiple personality. Did you have anything to add? Because you just joined.
Yeah, no, I'm just getting settled. I'm not really sure what Mr. Intelligent Design was saying or going with that, but
You know what? No offense, and Mr. Intelligent Design, but I think that's a lot of us. We don't quite get what you're saying, so it can be hard to have
put me on the spot and told me to respond to that. I was like, oh my god.
Oh no!
I just came into the room.
No, dude. I'm not telling you to respond to that specifically. I'm telling you, to more the topic at hand. How effective are these debates and discussions? Don't worry, I'd never do that to you, MP.
No, I don't think. I don't know. Who's the last person who changed their position in these debates? I've heard that Wayne became a older creationist from younger creationists because of these debates, but that's the only person I know that's actually had their core changed in some way.
And even then, that's pretty debatable. Whether it was the debate itself that changed him, or if maybe something else changed his position along with the debate.
Steve McCrae says they debated. He was a younger creationist. Then he debated with Steve, and then after that debate, he gave up younger creationism. So I was like, that's amazing. But I don't know if he held the younger creationist belief system that deeply to maybe make an argument.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you. Do you think it was mainly? So you're more on the side that Steve himself is what changed Wayne? I think that Steve might have just been like the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Next time I see Wayne, I'll ask him. I think somebody's coming to your door.
What?
Oh no, I thought your door was open. I was like, oh no, they're about to kill him.
That's not open. Not as far as I know. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah. See, when it comes to these kind of conversations, I guess my main concern is that sometimes it doesn't really feel like it's, because a lot of people kind of put on this kind of thing where it's like, I'm doing people a public service to basically warn them about pseudoscience and all this kind of thing. And I feel like what ends up happening is, sure, you might convince some people, but for the majority, you get these kind of echo chambers where you get like a bunch of people where it's like, oh yeah, I already agree that this stuff was pseudoscience anyway, so sure, I'll subscribe to you and agree with you and all that. But then the people who already are on the conspiracy or irrational side, it's like you're not really winning too many of them over. You're just kind of starting this war. I mean, if that's what you want, someone like me who wants entertainment, so that's not too big of a deal to me. But I'm not going to claim that, I'm participating in this great sort of intellectual debate kind of thing to rid the world of pseudoscience or anything, because I know that's not what I'm doing. I'm here for entertainment. And that's fine if you are,
Yeah.
but some people don't act like it.
Well, that's actually a good point. I think most of us are here for entertainment.
Yeah.
I like my beliefs are so entrenched. If even if people are challenging them, that and it's I don't know. It'll like even the fact that I don't believe in God. I wonder what evidence can someone provide me that's going to change, or is it an argument that someone can put forward that's actually going to change my mind? And I don't know. I don't think there is. I think I'm too entrenched. But I think that's what everybody who comes to these debates. Because if you've come and you've put yourself out here where you're actually talking on the mics, I think that you're one of those people who are entrenched in some belief system, and but you're willing to put them out there. So
Right. And even with the whole like entrenched in beliefs thing, like how much of that like entrenching like in beliefs whatnot, I wonder like how much of that is really grounded in person. Like I feel like I'm open-minded enough that if someone were to show me something that is really convincing for a position that I don't hold, I mean, I could change. Like, do you think that could be you? Or do you like, when you say you're entrenched, do you like think you're so far in, you're almost like closed-minded?
no, I think a lot of times, like if you're a theist and you ask a theist, what could I provide to you that would make you give up theism? And you can also use that for an atheist. Like, what evidence can I provide to you for God to exist? And people may think, some fantastical event may happen or something that would help them change their mind. But we're here online. We're not. There's no way someone can provide that to us. The only thing that you can provide is a good argument. And I've heard all the arguments. I've not heard anything that's of substance that'll make me say, well, the God concept must be true, or even might be true. I just haven't heard that argument, and I've been doing it for about a year. So maybe I'm in search of being convinced, but I think I'm entrenched enough to where everything that I've heard so far, that's not going to convince me. If you're going to convince me, it's going to have to be something that's really, really, really convincing, not only to me, but I think also to other people.
So the philosophical stuff wouldn't convince you, right? Like what rational theists and them like to peddle.
Not really, because I've heard their stuff and it's just not convincing. And maybe being convinced is a subjective thing. Maybe my level of convincing is different than everyone else's in here. But like convincing to me would be like national news, CNN playing it. God has been found. Here's the evidence. Nature is saying, finally God has been confirmed. That would be convincing to me. This 2,000-year-old book thing, and a couple of people said that they may have saw something in the woods one time. That doesn't really. It's not as convincing to me.
What about 5,000 years of philosophical discourse?
Maybe what about it? Is that supposed to convince me that?
Well, I mean,
I'm trying to understand.
CNN would convince you, but what about 5,000 years of philosophers, experts on the existence of God, saying that there is a God?
Right.
All right. So just so we can understand, I'm talking about the news media today coming out, and everybody, CNN, NBC, ABC, whoever, they all say in a uniform voice, science has found God, and we have the evidence, and it's worldwide news. That would be convincing to me that they've not only found something, but it's convincing enough where it seems like they found something convincing that God exists. I would have to see it. I would suspect that whatever they're putting forward is going to be convincing enough to convince me for them to come to that conclusion, because I find myself aligned with the news. But now, if you're talking about for me to go back, I know the farther back we go, the more fantastic the claims are, and the lot looser the evidence is too that were provided. And that's how I would hold those claims. So if you're talking about a claim that's maybe 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 2,000 years ago, I understand that because of the lack of understanding and the fact that those claims, that there's fantastical claims from many different cultures from around that same time, I just don't trust it as much as I would trust the news media today.
Right. I just don't like how, in general, a lot of atheists do this. They say, "Oh, well, why don't you go get like?" So I do have an argument for the existence of God. I won't bring it up here because that's off topic. But a lot of the atheists today will say, "Oh, why don't you go get a Nobel Prize or whatever if you can prove God's existence?" But we've had whole institutions dedicated to the fact that certain people have proved God's existence. So, I mean, they're not going to bring out news now because it's old news.
I don't know. Maybe you could send me a link or something. I've not seen the pronouncement that God exists. I know that it's a religious claim, but you could speak to some Christians here who have argued with, debated here online, that'll say, no man can ever really know that God exists. That's William Lane Craig's position. He doesn't know God exists, but he believes it. So I don't know. I don't know this whole God has been proven and everyone knows that he exists.
Yeah,
maybe you're right.
like
Maybe I'm
too.
fooling myself, but I don't know if I can accept that.
I'll give you
where I'm at now.
Too.
I'll give you a link.
I don't know. Did I just miss it? Did it come out? When did this come out? When did it come out that everybody accepted that God exists? God was real, and the evidence
I didn't know that evidence was established.
My position would be that this happened back, and Aristotle was the first one.
I don't know. It's like when Kyrie Irving said the Earth was flat, and everybody came out and was like, "Earth is flat. This guy's crazy." It's obviously round. I would suspect something like that would happen to God concept when people say God doesn't exist. Oh, this is proven. He is when it was proven, how it was proven. I believe.
Okay.
I believe the concept is out there. I think people believe it's true, but I don't know if it's been proven to be true.
Okay.
I agree.
Huh. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, maybe that's another hangout we need to have.
Yeah. Yeah, then Chihuahua can prove to everybody that God exists. Then everybody just has to pick a side then, theism or misotheism.
Or denial.
Or denial. Yeah, that's one.
But it has to be proven first.
Right.
Through experimentation, like Mr. ID just said.
I do
a 20-minute rant about experiments.
I do actually have about 2 other people at least that said that they'd be interested in being on my side on this. That they hold to basically the same position as I do.
Well, you know what? That's one thing that I don't know if you're in touch with. Maybe it's something that Wayne or even yourself could set up, like have a hangout specifically on that. And we can put that to the test.
Talk to me about it too, because I want to be available for that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Because I just want to believe as many true things possible. So if you have a good argument that God exists, that's convincing. I definitely want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Well, the intelligent design can make the new intelligent design has a good argument for that, but I think you will never accept it. You will never accept it because the problem here is it is not science that you are going to accept and evidence. It is the worldview. In other words, many people had already set in their mind that there are no gods, whether you show it science or not. But I'm using intelligent design, and I can show you many times for that. But I don't think you are going to accept it unless.
Well, Mr. ID. You came to all right. If I told, do you accept the fact that there are no fairies?
Hey, what's going on now?
Mr. Intelligent Design, do you accept the fact that there are no fairies, no magical fairies running around? Do you accept that fact?
Magical theories, are you saying?
Yes. Do you accept the fact magical fairies do not exist? Do you accept that as a fact?
Well, in science, no. There are no such kind of magical theories, but there is intelligent theories.
So hold on. If there are intelligent fairies.
That's not what he's saying.
Intelligent theories.
Fairies. Like
Fairy,
you know
not
fairies. When I'm talking about fairies, like the
not talking about
little
fairies.
people with wings on their
Like
back,
sorry.
fairies.
Magical
no.
fairies. Okay, sorry. Fairies. Okay, you don't believe that. Magical fairies. I don't believe that.
Well, I mean, your boy
So
Trill is
so
half fairy.
but can you provide me a test or some evidence to show why you don't believe the magical fairies don't exist?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
What
it's
what
simple.
experiment can you show me? What experiment would you show to prove these magical fairies don't exist?
We need to, if, you know, if you are going to use science, you need to be very specific, okay? Because
I think
science
that
is
was
not
fairly
religion.
specific.
In other
Mhm.
words, for example, I am a scientist, freelance scientist. I never talk in science that is not specific
Dodging the
because it
question for.
because first
Yeah, but Mr. Intelligent
because
Design, hold on, just so we can be clear. You
okay,
said
be
because
specific.
you've said because you have to not to deny something. Well, that's what you're saying is that you have to be able to have a test for it. So I've asked you about magical fairies. I've said, do you believe in magical fairies? Well, do you believe that magic fairies don't exist? You said yes. So I'm asking you, what evidence do you have to hold that belief? Prove to us that magical fairies don't exist through some type of test, because you said there's a test that you should be able to devise. So what test would you make to prove that magic fairies do not exist?
Okay,
Okay,
for
I
example,
think I see where what's his face is coming from. Sorry, multiple personality. I mean, I'd still like to hear where you're gonna go with this, but I think he's got you in the bag here. Go ahead. Go ahead, ID.
okay, so I'm sorry, Trill, if I don't want to derail you this topic, but I was being asked to answer a specific question about science. So I told you I'm a freelance scientist and I'm authority of intelligent design. So I'm going to answer the question about magical fairies because I will give you one example of magical fairies in the Philippines. According to one of
Right.
magical fairies
Nobody
in the
asked.
I told you
Well,
I'm specific. Okay, I
No,
am
no,
not
no.
in
No,
science.
listen. Just, all right, you're right. Let me be more specific. When I say magical fairies, I'm talking about invisible beings that I'm saying exist and they cause things to happen in the natural world. That's what I call magical fairies. What test would you create to find out if these magical, because you're saying that they don't exist. So I'm asking you, what test would you create to show that they do not exist? Magical fairies.
Now you clarify again. Before you clarify that, you are just asking me the word magical fairies. The phrase magical fairies. Now you're trying to redefine them again. So
No, because
please,
you asked me to be
That's
more
not what he's
specific.
I'm
asking.
sorry, everybody watching, but this is too fun. I want to see where this goes.
11.
yeah, please be specific. Okay, please
He's
be
being
specific.
specific.
So because
He's
the
asking you a
word,
very simple question.
yeah,
A
I'm
very
answering.
simple question.
I'm answering question.
No, you're not.
I'm answering. No, I'm answering him because I told you that the best way for in my when I was in the Philippines, one of the magical fairy that I know is that, for example, according to the magical fairy that we were taught in the school, that the human being came from bamboo, from the bamboo, BAMBOO. So one of magical fairies they were taught in the school. So because we never use the word, I have told you I am different from you. Okay, so I'm always specific. And I can show you one specific example so that we can test.
So
So I'm going.
hold on, Mr. ID. Just
Okay.
so we can be on the same page. Would it be safe to say that you can't devise any scientific test to prove that magic fairies do not exist? Would that be safe to say?
So I have told you that I'm specific because when I say the word magical fairy, I have my own story of magical fairy in the Philippines.
But we're not
So what's
talking
wrong
about
with
that.
that?
Who cares? That's not what we're asking.
Yeah.
No, because the question
12.
because I the question is magical fairies. So I'm asking you on specific because we had to test it. You cannot test. You cannot test something that that there's no specific. You know, Guys, science is specific and concrete. You cannot test in science without no specifics. I don't know if you were taught in school about science, but for me, I was taught in science, that, especially in engineering, that you cannot test something if you are not concrete or specific.
I think it is.
So
I think he's being very specific. Just because you want to establish whether or not you know it by a different name does not mean he's not being specific. So it's a very simple question. We would like you to answer it.
Now I've even thought of a way you could test it, and you still haven't. But okay.
No, I already said to you that the best way for us to test in science is to make a specific example. In the place where I live, I was born. One of magical fairy tale story is that human being came from bamboo. You see, so let's go to the bamboo field, and let's open the bamboo if there's a human there, so we can test it. And since there's no such thing as so you see, you cannot speak to me.
All right, you know what?
I am a scientist.
To be fair, if I said God would be more specific, because God, if I said God, you would know what God is. You know, there's nothing unspecific about that. You know, so I would ask the question and replace fairies with God. So what test would you could I, since I don't believe, what scientific test could I create to show that God does not exist? As a scientist, you would know, because that's the standard that you're trying to apply, that there should be a scientific test to prove that this thing doesn't exist. So I'm asking you, what test would I be able to? Can you devise a test?
You know, hang on. To be fair, I thought about this, and it's a little bit dishonest of me maybe to not bring this up before, but since I've kind of done research on this, I think intelligent design actually kind of has a point when it comes to fairies specifically, because if you look at traditional folklore when it comes to fairies, there's so many different types and explanations for what they are, different particular species of fairies, where they come from, and then there's also the modernization of all those different things too when it comes to like movies and all that. So if we're going by traditional Scottish lore, it might come out a little bit different than like the Philippines version of fairies or the whatever. But
then we've adjusted it now to God, which we all know, and I think all have been using in the same way. And that's why when I said, okay, well then just replace fairies with God, and just what test or what scientific test could be devised that can prove that God does not exist. So it's the same, that should eliminate that issue between modern fairies and fairies of lore.
Okay.
So now you are shifting the goal. Okay, you are shifting the goal from fairy. You are now using the specific word God.
We weren't the ones trying to change the meaning here.
No, you are. So that's why you are shifting the goal. Okay, or one of your arguments.
Intellectual dishonesty.
So before that.
That actually
how
puts,
do you define that? Okay.
Trill, that actually puts ID as 0 for me, so I'm no longer engaging.
Wow, you've been the closest.
In case those of you who are in here who don't know, I am now, because I have so little interest and because I have so little patience for intellectual dishonesty and bullshit like this, I give everyone I talk to on Google Plus a base HP of 100 per conversation. And if you do something that is fucking retarded, then I roll a 20-sided die and I subtract that number from your 100 hit points, and ID is already, which is a record, at 0. So I will no longer engage because I cannot tolerate that much stupid.
Dude, that's quicker than All Four's Glory.
Yep.
Wow.
All Four's Glory, to be fair, was getting.
I think you are. Please, in every discussion, don't shift the goal.
I'm no longer engaging, so I don't care.
So
anyways,
let's
failed.
I'm no longer engaging.
Let's move on.
Sorry to Trill. I don't want to derail your topic, but thank you for
to be fair, though, this conversation's kind of run its course anyhow. There's not a whole lot of people watching, so I'll just let everybody have their concluding statements, and then we'll wrap up. So, was there any last words you wanted to say, Multiple Personality? Okay.
No, I'm good. I'm sorry. I was on another screen real quick looking up the meaning of fairies for Mr. Intelligent Design.
Yeah, I was I didn't think that was a hard one to define.
That's and then when you say God, it shifted the goalposts. I don't know what's going on. But listen, I don't know. Listen,
You have
good
to be
night, and
specific
hey,
as to what type of fairy. Didn't you know that?
this this is the reason why nobody's going to be convinced, because we just, again, like just what happened with me and the Mr. Intelligent Design. It just is, people are just so entrenched that even when you start asking simple questions, it's, let me just say something just to shut you up. So have a good night, everybody.
All right.
Yeah.
Pin Valentine, your final words?
Ouchie, if you decide to have the hangout, talk with me first so we can make sure that I'll be available. Usually anytime after 6 is fine. In general, these conversations are important. In the Google Plus community, maybe not so much, but in the general sense and everywhere else, yeah, it's probably important.
I see. El Chihuahua, your final words?
Well, I think that, and you have to decide to make these conversations useful for yourself. I don't really care about if other people, make it. It's up to the other people whether they want to make it useful for themselves or not. It's not really my place.
Right. Mr. Intelligent Design, your final words?
Oh God.
Try to make it short if you can.
Yeah, I would like to thank you for letting me in, and whenever I have a time and share my science, and I don't worry about those people who are against me. I just don't care about them. No problem. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that being said, I will say thanks everybody for watching. And to answer something that was in the live chat, I do want to address the live chat as well. The live chat, somebody said, where is it? Yeah, Retcon Effect said, he defined what he meant by fairy. It is dishonest to suggest you didn't know what he meant. By that,
Thank you, Retcon.
Yeah, that is something that was mentioned. And I think Mr. Intelligent Design should have at least had an idea of what multiple personality was talking about, because he did try to define what he meant by fairy, even though there are many different interpretations. Don't get me wrong, because you got things like pixies and sprites and all this stuff, so they're all little
He did
different.
say little tiny magical people with wings. So
Yeah, but there's multiple different interpretations of little tiny people magical with wings.
I actually thought that ID had a good point, because he mentioned like a specific example, like we were talking about. Well, if fairy rings cause fairies to exist, to like a portal to open or whatever, then that's one way you could test it. But
right,
I think,
but again, it depends on your interpretation and everything.
Right,
And
exactly.
if we're talking about, that's a whole other subject for another day, dude.
well,
but
I think Mr. ID was trying to say, well, here's something that would exist in the world if my version of fairies existed, and that doesn't exist. We can test whether that exists in the real world. So I thought that was a good point.
Well, your boy considers himself half Sylvan, so there, fairies exist. Anyways, thanks everybody for watching the YouTube channel today. So be sure to subscribe to the Great Debate Community channel if you want more stuff like this, if you have not already. Every now and then people will be using this channel because it's a public access channel, so you'll get certain people to run this. It won't just be me. Not everybody likes my hangouts, so I apologize. Great Debate Community Google Plus page. Be sure to check that out if it's kind of your thing. Science, theology, philosophy. Those are the kind of things that are usually discussed on that. Steve McRae's channel is another one you might want to look at too. He's the one that kind of owns the Great Debate Community brand. And I was throwing a plug here for Pin Valentine's channel. Not so much anymore because we kind of received a little bit of issue, but hopefully we'll be able to do our catching up podcast via Google Hangouts that we do on Fridays. Hopefully we'll be able to do that again soon. Do you know how many days you have left before that?
The 28th of next month.
The 28th of next month, then he was able to stream again. Okay. But, you might want to subscribe in the meantime. If you decide to. Okay. Well, I don't know. There's a few things I could talk to you about to make a few tweaks or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, so this has been your boy Trill The Cyberspace Fay. Thanks everybody for watching, and peace out, y'all.